Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about, you know, the cost of living crisis that we have in America. And a lot of people really are struggling with this. In fact, um, $75,000 a year is just not enough money to survive on. And, especially if you're a family of four or five or even six, it's just not really doable because, I mean, it's $75,000 gross annual income. You have a lot of things that come out of that: your taxes, your insurance, your mortgage or your rent, car payments, food, you know, utilities, cell phone bills, all these things. And these things are actually going to bring down your overall your net income, right? Your net income is going to suffer tremendously, guys. But before I get into it all, guys, let's watch this clip real quick, and I'll be right back.
Unsustainable. And there are people that they know this, but then they'll still look at somebody else that's struggling and then tell them they're not doing good enough. I want you to imagine somebody that makes $75,000 a year. That's a pretty high up wage in terms of like top earners in this country. $75,000 a year. And we're going to go through some things here. This is a person with no debt outside of a car. And please don't hit me with the you can go buy a car for. Shut up. You can't. Shut up. Stop saying ridiculous things. An entry level decent car is $30,000. So this person who puts $200 a month into insurance and they pay 5% into their 401k because shut up, people should be able to put money into their retirement. Because if you're not doing it now, you're never going to get to start doing it later. So after those two things come out of their paycheck and their taxes are paid, they bring home $53,850 a year from a $75,000 paycheck. Average rent in my state for a one-bedroom apartment, because an adult should be able to live by themselves, $1,700. That car payment at 6% for an entry level, very reasonable sedan, nothing fancy. That car payment's $579 a month. Car insurance, $240 or so a month for a lot of vehicles in this day and age. You're a young person, you've got a nice job, but the insurance companies still want to screw you over. Food. You only cook at home. You never, ever go out. You only cook at home and you only eat decent quality food because a human being should be allowed to eat decent quality food. You pay $879 a month for that. You spend $250 a month in gas. You wear and tear on your car $100 a month. $80 for your phone, $80 for your internet, $175 a month for your electricity, $70 for your water, $20 for your cash. You make 75 grand a year, and outside of a car payment, you have zero debt. Do you know how much money you have left over annually at a $75,000 wage? You do nothing. You don't own a Netflix. You don't go out on a date. You don't pay to go to a park. You don't go watch a movie. You do nothing. If you can't find it on the internet for free, you don't get to do it. If you can't cook it at home for your 800, you don't get to do it. You have $3,700 left over annually. That's like $320 a month. And there's going to be, well, that's 300. Shut up. Shut your stupid, contrarian, edgelord mouth. That's not a doctor bill, because God knows just because we have insurance doesn't mean that we don't still pay far out the ass when we go to the doctors. People like to be entertained. They want to date. They want to. There's those of you out there that will tell somebody living like this on $75,000 a year before taxes that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, that they should get a second job, that they should get a side hustle, that they should get a better job. And the fact that you would look at somebody with no debt other than a car and say something like this to them means objectively you're a moron and you live in a fantasy world. This is unsustainable. The cost.
As you guys see, $75,000 a year is pretty much baseline. I would even say $100,000 a year is baseline. Like, you need that to sustain yourself, because if you make $100,000 a year, you're probably going to take home around 75,000, 70,000 a year. This is before health insurance. This is before you pay your mortgage. This is before you pay your car note. Again, this is all before you cover all your life expenses, guys. So, you know, If you make $100,000 a year, you're going to take home about $75,000 a year. If you make $75,000 a year, you're only going to bring home probably around like 55 if you're lucky. And that's before you have to pay your mortgage. That's before you have to pay, you know, or your rent, your food cost, car payments, all this stuff, guys. And so when we start adding it all up, it really starts to kind of like make you think that people just can't afford life anymore. People can't afford to work the 16, 70-hour work weeks that are required to sustain this livability, to sustain the American dream. People can't do it. They're getting burned out. Yeah, you may be able to work 60, 70 hours a week for a couple of months, a year, maybe 2 years. But do you really want to work that much? Do you really want to work 70 hours a week? You're pretty much living at work. You're spending more time at work during the day than you are at your own house. Do you really want to live like that? Does the average American want to live like that? I don't think so. I don't want to live like that. And I'm sure you don't either. But see, we're faced with a situation, right, where the cost of living has gone up so much in America that it takes everything you possibly, have as far as willpower, determination, work ethic to sustain yourself. Because no employer is paying a proper wage so that you're able to take care of your family, let alone take care of yourself. And that's by design, guys. You understand that? That's by design. So the matrix, the system, whatever you want to call it, has us all bogged down, right? We're all bogged down because at the end of the day, the system needs you and it needs me to continuously produce things. That's how the system, the matrix, stays alive. But it can't have you get too far ahead of it. It can't have you make too much money. Because if you make too much money, then the matrix will bite you. The system will bite you. It'll knock you down. So it has to keep you just the right amount of poor. So you don't ask questions. You don't, realize, wow, this might be a scam. I'm working too much. I'm not living my life. See, that's where a lot of Americans are feeling right now. A lot of people are waking up. That's why you're seeing people move down to Colombia, Mexico, parts of Europe and Asia. Because these places are cheaper. And a lot of places are safer than America. America's not as safe as we grew up. It's not as safe as we thought. And it's getting to be more dangerous. But you can look the stats up on your own, but you watch the news, guys. Watch a little bit of the news, do some research. You can see. It sucks because as someone who has kids, I used to ride my bicycle up and down the street. I used to do stuff. And now I just don't feel like America is what it used to be. A place where your kids can ride their bikes up and down the street. A place where, you don't have to worry about anything. This is all changed. It's because of, deep down, it's because of the inflation. It's poverty. The inflation creates poverty. Poverty creates crime. And so once you understand this, you'll realize that when there's economic downturns, crime spikes. This is all normal. So what we have to realize is the only way to fix this is either there needs to be a huge reset, all the debt needs to get resetted, all the prices of houses and food and cars, all of those things get resetted, or you move outside the country, or you just make so much money here in the States, it doesn't affect you. But then it will affect you because most people who make more money tend to buy more expensive things. And so their level of inflation is just going to feel different, right? But look, I'm not trying to be, super negative in this video. I just want to let you guys know that if you're feeling like you're poor, you're feeling like what you're doing is just not moving the needle, you're not alone. A lot of people are struggling nowadays. And you got to be creative with your income or think about moving abroad. And that's just kind of where things are, you know? But I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Comment below what you think people should do in these trivial times. Or just like the video and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys in a bit, all right? Peace out.